Hi, this is Matt once again, and this is a commentary request, paid request from Ben. Thank you so much for that. And he actually mentioned I had done a review for Copland in the Dark, and he's like, I actually like that look. So I'm like, okay, that's no problem. This is appropriate for this movie. Now, if anyone wants to request pretty much any type of video, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And let's get right into it. The title pretty much tells you what it is. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. A Hinkle Hooper production. Filmed by Tobe Hooper. Rest in peace, Tobe Hooper. Now, of course, this is the voice of John Larriquette. John Larriquette, who would be on the TV show Night Court, among other stuff. He actually did this narration again for the remake in 2003. And this definitely, I thought, was a great choice to give even more of the feel of like it was an actual, not documentary, although it does have that documentary feel, but I find it interesting they separated chainsaw, because I thought chainsaw was one word, but like chain space saw space. But it definitely brings a feel as if maybe this was a true story, and I think that's why a lot of people did believe it was a true story. I mean, it's loosely based on Ed Gein, who would kill people or did bodies up, have people skin all over the place around the house, furniture, have a body rigged up like a deer in the barn. Ed Gein was inspiration for Psycho as well as this film, but technically, no, this is not based on a true story. And there's that sound effect, that sort of picture-taking sound effect that gets used from time to time, but will always be thought of with this film. Another great choice. That's the thing, you have the opening, and then you have these little splotches of photography, and you can barely see what it is, and then you get this blackness. It's just such a weird, creepy sound effect, and then you have this score that's like a score mixed in with sound effects. You know, pew. I think what it is like you're seeing stuff like this, and you're going, okay, where is this going? Where is this going to take me? And you're not quite 100% sure. And when this film came out, a lot of filmmakers were inspired by it. And, I mean, for example, Ridley Scott would talk about watching this film before doing Alien and just being blown away by it. And let me just see if... Okay, there's that, and there's that. Okay, I'll stick with that. Yeah, this weird association of a guy, a dead body, and then there's another head on top of it. It's just a really weird, screwy... it gives you a big question mark as to who did this, why did they do this, and then it just stays there as you're just hearing this radio report. And even this, like, again, with the very creepy music and these weird visuals that you can't quite tell what you're looking at. Like, what am I exactly looking at with this red filter type of thing? I mean, that's the thing with this movie. It has an exceptional piece of atmosphere to it. And what's sad is a lot of people involved with this film have passed away. Like, most of the actors. Not all, but most of the actors have passed away. Tobe Hooper has passed away. Marilyn Burns has passed away. Paul Partain. Gunnar Hansen. As for info about the film, that's the thing with doing a movie like this. This has been talked about so much. Like, what more could I offer? I mean, I'd just be stating facts that you could find on The Shocking Truth, which is a pretty decent documentary. I think that's even on YouTube. You know, it was a micro budget. It was a tough shoot. It was extremely hot to shoot, to the point people were going crazy, especially during the dinner scene. And most of the people didn't get paid jack shit even after the film. I mean, think about it. This film is one of the most famous horror films in history. But these actors, even after the fact, Lolo and other people, they didn't get jack shit with money. And it's a kind of a big deterrent on filmmaking, especially maybe more so now. More so nowadays, though. At least you get lawyers in there, and you could, maybe work out a better deal. But it is sad you look back on a lot of these movies that are classics, and you realize all these people. I mean, you're one of the actors, and this doesn't have the biggest cast, and one of the most influential, successful, iconic horror films of all time. And at the end, nothing at all. I never understood why he was peeing in a little can. I mean, why don't you just piss in the bushes? Maybe he's afraid of, pissing getting into his pants, but just be careful and aim properly. There's Franklin, Paul Partain. This is your group of hippies. I don't know what you want to call them. And the acting is fine. It's natural. They are who they are. Marilyn Burns. And, again, they didn't get to do much after this, and hard to keep up with life and work and finances. That still goes back to me. This is you're part of one of the most successful horror films ever, and you did jet shit. And that's a common theme. Like, look at George Romero. Because of a copyright fuck up, all that money would have made George Romero rich as hell. But instead, like, all the actors in that movie, it's just crazy, like. But even like actors, Hollywood always looks down on horror films, even though horror films are some of the most popular and some of the most influential and some of the most iconic titles in the catalog. They just always look down on it, even though there's plenty of merit in them. More merit, I say, than the fucking Oscar winners. Like, there's more merit to this film, Nightmare on Elm Street, than Nomadland, or any fucking film that was nominated for the Oscars this year or last year. This guy was drunk as fuck. Yeah, sorry, I'm just not sure what to say with this scene. It's pretty much them describing the slaughterhouse aspects. How cattle was killed. Which thankfully they don't show it. There would be other films that would show that, but thankfully this doesn't. It didn't need to do that. Just describing it is good enough. And I'm a guy that, you know, I eat meat. I eat hamburgers. Love hamburgers. I just don't want to see it. Unless it's a necessity survival. But let's face it, we're not in a survival aspect. When you go to the fucking store and there's 1,000 fucking things to get, then you're not in a survival aspect. Let's be honest. But you know, I still like it. There we go. You know, Franklin setting up that knife that's going to be used a little bit by the hitchhiker. And it's definitely one of those old attributes. Never picked up a hitchhiker. Same with, you know, the hitcher with Rutger Hauer. And this is Edwin Neal as the hitchhiker himself. Which I think it's the hitchhiker's body that you see near the beginning of Chainsaw Massacre 2. When Leatherface is killing the hippies. Not the hippies, the yuppies. The yuppies in the car, and there's like a corpse. The Leatherface is shaking at first. I think that's supposed to be the corpse of this guy. Because it is supposed to be a sequel to this film. But why would you let a guy in that clearly has blood on the side of his face, like right over here? As soon as I saw that, I'm like, floor it and just leave him behind. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. If you have this, unless you've been in a car accident, of course. But if you haven't, you got this big fucking blood on the side of your face, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm perfectly good. I would say the first time I saw this film was, I want to say on cable, way back in the day. Early 2000s, I would say. I would say early 2000s. And freaked me out. I would say this is one of the few films that were scary to me. Because I'm not saying that to act like I'm tough. It's just not a lot of films have scared me. Because real life is scarier. So I watch movies and I know they're fake and fantasy, but it's funny, like when I was a small youngster, the very beginning opening credits of Aliens, for some reason, with the titles and the music, and for some reason, I don't know why, when I was like 7 or 8. I wouldn't say I was scared, but I got my adrenaline pumping when I first saw the Blair Witch Project, because I'd never seen a movie like that. I thought it was well done. You know, in a film like this. I think I had seen Chainsaw Massacre 2 first. And then I had seen this. See, this is why you don't give a guy like this, you know, the knife. And you don't really... I mean, that's pretty much like a tube, I'm sure, at the end of the knife. Like, if you look at the other end of the knife, the other side is like probably some tube. They just squeeze in it. You can kind of see the tube as on his hand. You see like a little thing at the bottom. There's like a little bit of a tube. So it's pretty much, here's a knife, put a tube here, and then you just squeeze it as it goes along. Kind of like your, like caulk. You get the gun with the caulk and you do that to get holes and stuff in your room or whatever the hell you're caulking at. C-A-U-L-K. In case people don't know what I'm talking about. So this is why, 1, don't pick up hitchhikers. 2, carry a gun. Just carry a gun. Pretty much, it'll be, be making like a little fire and then cutting Franklin's arm a bit. But I would say I do think the first one is the best film. It's definitely the film that has the most atmosphere, that grainy, again, there's a documentary feel, there is something about that makes it seem more real and just creepier than the other movies. And I'm sorry, they're never going to capture that again. No matter how many times they want to make it, and they're trying to make another Chainsaw Massacre film, it's like you're never going to get on top of this one. I'm sorry. The sequel I enjoy. I like that Tobe Hooper took a more black comedy, ultra gory approach. Because Tobe Hooper knew he could not beat this. I think that's why he did. Number one, he already did a horror, like the Scary Movie. I think he himself said, I can't beat this. I don't know how to beat this. I can't replicate lightning again. Lightning cannot strike twice with how creepy, scary, atmospheric this is. So I'm going to make a different type of film, and it's gorier, Tom Savini effects, it's bloodier, it's more comedic, and it's a fun sequel. The third film, I always thought it was okay. I always thought it was just okay. Like, I don't know, like a 3 out of 5 star movie. I mean, it's cool that you have Viggo Mortensen, it's cool that you got Ken Foray. I don't mind Kate Hodge, who's the lead. They were really hampered by the studio. There's the studio and Robert Shea, Bob Shea wanted to cut shit. And then the MPAA got a hold of it and cut shit. So I know there's an uncut version on DVD and I think it's like Warner Archive Blu-ray. Which I'm surprised is Warner Archive. Was it Warner Archive? But I guess, no, I'm surprised that it doesn't have like a big Scream Factory Arrow Video like type of special edition. But the features were decent on the interviews. But here we go. Get more of that tube work on the arm. But, the editing, it's quick enough to show the craziness of the situation. Just the whole weirdness of the situation. I think what it is that you see Edwin Neal, you believe that the guy's crazy. You just believe that he's insane. And that believability helps within the film. That's the last hitchhiker I ever picked up. Shouldn't have picked up in the first place. But yeah, I like the third film. It's just, again, it's trying to be very intense, but it's nowhere near intense as the first one. And it tried to be gory like the second film, but then a lot of that was taken out, so that got hampered with. The ending's a bit weird, because originally it ended with Ken Foray dying, but then he comes back, and I like that he's alive, and the fact that I like Ken Foray. It makes no fucking sense, though, and there's that part of my brain that's just like, okay, I like that Ken Foray's alive, but it makes absolutely no fucking sense, because he got a chainsaw to the head, and now he has like a little scrape on this dome. I didn't know, I mean, that chainsaw would do a lot more than that. I would just much prefer if they took the time to refilm it then. Or have one quick scene, they have a little close-up where instead of a chainsaw, Leatherface like hits him in the head with a rock. Like have a close-up. Where they're both struggling and like you can't do the chainsaw, hits Ken Foray in the rock. Like film a quick scene of that, and you just do like a backdrop here, And like, it'd be a bit clunky, but at least it would make more sense story-wise than he took a chainsaw to the head, and now he's perfectly fine. And it's like, I like that Tim Foray's character's alive. They should not have killed him off in the first place. That's really my issue. If that's the case, in the script, in the original shooting, they should not have killed Tim Foray's character off in the first place. So there you go. But, I don't know, just something about it just never felt anything spectacular about the third film. Just alright. Fourth film is bad, although I like Matthew McConaughey. I know people would say, well, he upstages Leatherface. Well, technically you could say Bill Moseley upstages Leatherface in Chainsaw 2. But Chainsaw 2 is a much better movie than Part 4. But I do like Matthew McConaughey. I don't mind Renee Zellweger, but everything else, story, what the fuck was trying to do with the Men in Black or whatever the hell that was, and it's like a remake of this film, almost beat for beat. So I thought that was just lazy. And Leatherface was a total goof. Fucking trans-testicle, transvite from Transylvania. At least Frankenfurter admitted it, unlike Leatherface. I hate the fourth film. The remake I enjoy. I saw it in the theater, I enjoyed it. Years, people like telling you, oh, is it not that good? I'm like, oh, is it as good as I remember? Is it as good as I remember from the theater? And then I saw it again, I'm like, no, I do really enjoy the remake. I think the remake, in its different way, does capture the intensity. Honestly, I think intensity-wise, the remake is the closest to capture it. Now, I'd say Part 2 is more entertaining, but I'm just saying the remake, if you're saying a film that tried to capture the intensity of the original, I think the remake is the closest to do it. I really do. The beginning I thought was a pointless endeavor. I don't think you needed a prequel. And it has a dumb fucking ending where he has a goddamn 8-foot chainsaw in the backseat of this. Like, the car is 10 feet long, but somehow Leatherface is like an 8-foot chainsaw that he's sneakily in the back seat to go through like it was a fucking butcher knife. I mean, think about it. You have this huge chainsaw. You have to get it in the backseat of this while this woman's driving. She doesn't notice anything when the saw's this fucking big, and then you have to rev it up. And thankfully, it worked the first time. And God, that's so fucking dumb. Of course, same director, John Leesman, that go direct the 2014 Ninja Turtles film. Yes, I know he directed Darkness Falls and Battle Los Angeles. I like those two, but Chainsaw at the beginning and then Ninja Turtles 2014, he fucked up. And then, again, they won't stop. They did Texas Chainsaw 3D. That was a piece of shit. I would say that's the worst one of the bunch. Texas Chainsaw 3D. Because that's just insulting. Everything about that movie is insulting. It's insulting to say that's the true sequel. It's insulting that it's a sequel to a film that's clearly the 70s. And you're supposed to be the 90s, but you have fucking phones clearly from that year. But then, wait a minute, the woman is like 20 years old, and oh, there's a baby all of a sudden. Because, in this film, you clearly see all the other families of Leatherface and the cook. Oh, no, you don't. And then, like, we're supposed to feel sorry for them. Fuck it. The Vigilante group, I'm sorry. I forgot his name. Who did Jason Goes to Hell. I'm sorry, buddy. You're one of the writers for Leatherface. I mean, for Texas Chainsaw 3D. Adam Green. No, not Adam Green. That's Hatchet. Damn it. If I have to look it up. They'll just get me mad if I don't remember it. I know, I apologize. Adam Marcus. I'm sorry, Adam Marcus. I know you helped write one of the early scripts for Chainsaw 3D, but to try to make us feel sorry for the family, and then at the end, oh, we're gonna root for Leatherface to kill this guy? Leatherface murdered a bunch of innocent people. That's like trying to root for Freddy Krueger as the hero. Give me a fucking break. That's fucking brain damage bullshit, I'm sorry. Fucking awful. Do your thing, cuz. Whatever the fuck she said. Piece of shit. And then Leatherface was a useless, pointless fucking movie. That no one fucking remembers that movie. And now they want to do another one. Because they won't end. They don't get it. Leatherface sucked. Chainsaw 3D sucked. Chainsaw Next Generation sucked. Chainsaw the Beginning sucked. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Or remake the German Chainsaw Massacre. I think that's one of the films Cinema Snob reviewed. Check out Brad Jones' Cinema Snob's review. I miss when Cinema Snob would review those kind of movies. Nowadays it's like, here's a review of Freddy vs. Jason. Here's a review of Hellraiser Hellseeker. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I remember when you were reviewing stuff like The Refrigerator and Nudist Colony of the Dead. I miss those kind of reviews. But hey. I always thought it looked disgusting when Franklin had that in his mouth. Franklin is blood. There's not much to stare at. And I didn't even mention before when they stopped at the gas station, they met Jim Seedow, who was the cook. You say almost the father figure of this family of cannibals. Ew. That's when like stuff like that, like this weird corner of these like dandelion like spiders. Daddy long legs. Well, no, more like dandelion spider. I mean, just the fact there's like a big clutch of them, just very creepy. There's Franklin trying to get in with the wheelchair. I don't know why you would stop here though. Like, what? I don't get the point of stopping this rundown bullshit place. Like, just keep going, man. Like, go, I don't know, go to the concert, go to the swimming pool, go to a hotel, have sex, something. I mean, that'd be more appealing to me than going to a rundown place where mosquitoes are going to eat you alive and all this other shit. Hey, what the fuck do I know? But I mean, that is a real thing even to this day. You will find just abandoned places or just homes just completely abandoned and empty. And just run down and left to rot. If I was Franklin, I would have just stayed home. I think I remember the story that people were annoyed by this guy, this actor. That was a pretty over the top though, this whole, you know, blowing raspberries. Like, stuff like that did make people annoyed with the character of Franklin. I don't think you needed stuff like that. And I don't think you needed the audience to be annoyed by Franklin. Again, just certain bits of editing could have fixed that. I just think that would be even more horrifying to then when what happens afterward. What he kills a guy in a wheelchair. I didn't just cut out the whole bit with the raspberry. It didn't. It's not like it led anywhere. You could have him enter and then cut to this scene here with a simple edit. That's another thing. Just this weird stuff. Like credit to I forget the guy who set up the whole set. It's not even a set. I mean, just all these little trinkets and stuff they set up, like all these bones everywhere. Probably like real bones. Yeah, I think it's just the way it's shot, and also the film stock. The film stock, which of course they don't use nowadays, because now everything has to be HD, crystal clear, and I don't think that's always the good case with a movie. I'm sorry. I don't think it's always the good case that everything be crystal clear. I mean, hell, even we don't see things crystal clear. If you wear glasses, take off your glasses. You're not seeing everything crystal clear. I mean, when a movie is more clear than real life, I think there's a problem. Sometimes it can work if it's like Blade Runner 2049, sure, but other times I just don't think it's needed. Just like color filters, or they take a film and then they change the color so it looks all the color sucked out, and I think there's a lot of times people do it when they shouldn't. And there's some good looking shots like this, like when they're looking up as the two walk in and the sun's glaring down, or of course the scene later where the lady goes up and she gets off I won't say the porch, but the rotting bench thing, and goes off to the house. I guess I should talk about Tobe Hooper. I mean, of course, this film did quite a bit business, and really one of the only people that did work was Tobe Hooper, not really the actors. And so Gunnar Hansen got a little bit of work. I mean, he was in a film called The Demon Lover, I believe it was called, and years later would be in a fun B movie called Mosquito from the 90s. Very underrated. Has a great Blu-ray from Synapse, I believe. Could be wrong. And he would do stuff like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and other stuff. But Tobe Hooper, I mean, you had Eaten Alive with an appearance by Robert Englund before he was Freddy Krueger. And then going to the 80s, Tobe Hooper made a deal with Canon Films and got about a 3-picture deal, because Golden Globus really wanted the sequel to Chainsaw Massacre. They said, okay, I'll do that, but here's 2 other movies. And it was Life Force and the remake of Invaders from Mars. But sadly, really all 3 of those films didn't do well. Life Force bombed, and I think Life Force is a good movie, has some really great special effects. Steve Railsback, I think his acting's a bit inconsistent, sadly. And I like Steve Railsback, but that's not really one of my favorite performances of his. I think he does a better job performance-wise in Blue Monkey, which I'm sure is a film really no one has heard of. But I'm just saying, acting-wise, I think his acting's better than that. See, that's another thing that works with this film, just all these little weird things, like finding a tooth. Just out of the blue. It's all this weird stuff that's slowly building up this tension that's going to be coming up soon. I'll speak more about Tobe Hooper in a bit, but this is coming to one of the big scenes of the movie. Our first introduction of Leatherface, played by Gunnar Hansen, who sadly is no longer with us. I would say, if any actor actually went on to do other stuff, it would be Gunnar Hansen. And the way this is done, I think one of the reasons this works so well is there's no music. There's no telegraphing that something bad's going to happen. A lot of times they kind of ruin the suspense, like, and it's like, okay, I know something's going bad. Something bad's going to happen when it reaches that height, but there's no music, and this is a trip. Oh shit, what the fuck? Real quick shot, oh shit, boom. And no music, just the twitching seems real. The sound effect, it's not too over the top, and then boom. And then you have this weird like music, but sound effect type music. And there's the shot I was talking about, low shot, the imposing house. Like, we know what happened in there, so it's for the audience to go, don't go in there. Plus, it's a nice ass shot too, because beautiful lady. Oh, that's sexist. Yes, I think the lady is beautiful. What? I think she would appreciate that more than me calling her ugly hoe. Yes, that's an ugly hoe. No, I think she would prefer beautiful lady. That's what I don't understand. Oh, it's sex to call someone beautiful? Okay, fine. I'll remember to call you ugly then. That way I won't be sexist. Sometimes common sense is out the fucking window. But yeah, that scene is definitely, if any scene's going to hook you in, it's going to be that. I mean, to me, I'm hooked in from the beginning of the film, and that's when it's just the way this is done, the way this is made. I think with Tobe Hooper, he can never get this movie off his back. And Tobe Hooper seems always proud of the film. He was always proud, but I'm just saying. See, I like all this stuff with all the feathers on the ground. You got these bones and weird, like, idea. This is heavily inspired by Ed Gein, where, well, not the chicken, but you have like furniture made, well, here are bones, but for Ed Gein it was made of skin. But all they did, you got bones everywhere, and that's the thing, it's all messy. It's like they just leave the shit around, and you're just wondering, what are you going to see next? And yeah, remember, this is 1974. This is not something that people were normally seeing. That's another thing, is that this was different from what people were seeing at the time. This is not something they saw every week. And also, you think of the circumstances. There was no cable. There was no internet. There's barely any movies, unless, you go to the theater. TV wasn't really much of a thing. It was, but, compared to today, where you have 1,000 channels that no one watches because they just watch stuff on the internet. So, that lack of being desensitized, this is new, and people watch and go, what the fuck is this? Like, you're in another world, you're in the hands of someone who is seemingly dangerous as a filmmaker. Like, what is going to be shown next? Like, all these weird bones, and like the idea, like, just having all these feathers on the ground, instead of making just a plain ground, have all the feathers there. It gives a little bit of a interesting detail to it. And Leatherface is just like, who are you? And that's the thing, this film is not gory. Like, look at this shot. Look how little gore you see. There's the hook. Her reaction. There's a little blood on the wall in the back. You didn't even see a blood spray. See, you saw no... You really didn't see any actual blood. Like, I see blood... You didn't see a blood spray. It's just, oh, there's stuff on behind her on the wall. Okay. Here's a chainsaw revving. And you don't... I did not see anything. You get the idea of what he's doing. You know, cutting his head off or whatever, but you don't see anything. You just... No music. You have her screaming, doing a good job acting-wise, and just being insane. Like, the idea of you're hooked and your boyfriend is being sawed while this crazy guy... That's the thing, like, everything just feels natural, and nothing is really over the top. And then there were 3. But yeah, Tobe Hooper, like I said, he could not really get away from this film, so no matter what film he made, it was never going to be as good as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it became such a huge, iconic film. And, you know, Tobe Hooper, I do like as a director. I don't put him up with John Carpenter and Wes Craven. I think John Carpenter and Wes Craven were better filmmakers. Like, Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street, but then you got, in my opinion, Shocker, The People Under the Stairs, The Serpent and the Rainbow, Scream. And John Carpenter, yeah, Halloween, but you had The Fog, you had The Thing, Escape from New York, Starman. Like, I would say John Carpenter was the best filmmaker of the group because he could do mostly any genre. He did action with Escape from New York, and he did sci-fi with They Live. He did love story with Starman. He did more body horror type, like The Thing, alien body, and then slasher with Halloween. Ghost Story with The Fog. Action comedy like Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, Starman, Halloween, 4 very different films. You know. But yeah, Tobe Hooper, I mean, after that, like, I would say of the films I've seen of his, yeah, I don't mind Life Force. I'm not a fan of Invaders from Mars, I'm sorry. Invaders from Mars, I thought, other than some decent special effects, I thought the kid was awful. I thought the ending sucked. Yeah, it's an ending that was from the original, but I think you could change it, because I think it sucked for that version, and I don't know, just a lot of issues I have with the remake of Invaders from Mars. Not really a fan of it. And Spontaneous Combustion, I thought, while some of it looked cheap at the beginning with the set they have at the beginning of the film, I like Brad Dourif, I like the fire special effects, but I thought by the end it just kind of fell apart. I think it really fell apart by the end. By the third act of that film, I should say. Not just the end, but the third... Yeah, Spontaneous Combustion, I think, really falls apart in the third act. I really do. I think when it's Brad Dourif trying to figure out what these powers are, and these fire powers, and what's the whole deal with it. But the story just fell apart. I do like The Mangler. The Mangler is actually my favorite Tobe Hooper film. Number 1, I think it's his most underrated film. And I'm the type that roots for the underdog more so. I just am. Like, when I see a movie that's been hated on and I see it, I go, I thought this was really good. And then it makes me love the film more, just the fact that it's hated on, and I happen to like it. Believe me, I don't love a film just because it's hated. If that's the case, I would love Howard the Duck, but I don't like Howard the Duck. I think Howard the Duck sucks, honestly. It's not the worst movie ever, though, but I don't think it's a good movie. I'm not a fan of Howard the Duck. There's decent aspects. Again, I don't think it's the worst film ever, but I don't think it's a good film. But I like The Mangler. I love the weird story. I love Ted Levine's performance. The gore is great, in my opinion. I think it's a great piece of gore. I love Robert Englund's over-the-top performance, and I love the way the film looks, and don't go back there, man. That's the death room. You definitely do get a sense of location. Like, okay, to the left is where this whole hook, meat hook, and this freezer, which she's gonna be popping up right about now. Boom. I didn't know blood. I didn't see no blood in this. Again, it's just how quick it is, and then just how quick and swift it is. And Leatherface is just confused as to what the fuck is going on. Like, all these people keep coming up, all these people keep popping out of the woodwork. What the fuck? You know, what's going on here? Where's all these people coming from? Is there anybody else out there? And yeah, I'm confused. What the fuck's going on? And what the fuck? Yeah, nice stuff with the teeth. As well as the mask. And now nighttime. But yeah, I mean, Tobe Hooper, like, of course I didn't mention Poltergeist because there's always the whole thing, did Tobe really direct it? Did Steven Spielberg really direct it? I don't even know, because people keep saying different stories and I don't know for certain. I really don't. So I can't tell you. One person says one thing, one person says another thing. No one wants to sit down and say specifically, verbatim, this is what happened from beginning to end. Because they're too fucking scared. They're too scared of litigation or whatever. Even if they're telling the truth. Doesn't matter if you're telling the truth. Okay, I would just get in the van, leave, and go get a cop. I mean, if they've been gone this long and it's nighttime, you know something's up. Well, it even says we ought to go to that gas station. I mean, Franklin really has the right idea. Haunt the horn. If they don't come, we go. Oh, they took the keys. So they can't leave. Like, they didn't have to make Franklin so damn whiny. I think that, again, that's why people say they don't really like Franklin, because he just comes off as fucking whiny. I don't think that was really needed. Obviously, Jerry ain't there. He can't hear you. Jerry ain't home right now. Jerry's dead. D-E-D dead. He's dead as fuck. This must have like some blue light somewhere in the left, and then like, cascade over them and then go in the woods. I think this is about when Franklin's going to get it. Very soon. But yeah, sorry I'm not saying much. But I mean, there's some stuff in the script that does make sense. Like, you have them honk a lot, so that's why Leatherface is alerted to their presence, because he heard all that honking. It wasn't just one or two, it was countless honking, and then the fact they're near the house, boom, that's where Leatherface sees it. That's a great scare moment. Great scare moment. And then, again, don't see any blood. Maybe a little bit trickling out onto Leatherface, and that's it. But it's just the idea, like, you get the idea that you know, stab the chainsaw into Franklin, across Franklin. I guess in a way you see the aftermath of that in Chainsaw Massacre 2, where Dennis Hopper finds Franklin. Which I think, like, Dennis Hopper's character is related to these two. And it's funny that, you know, Dennis Hopper recognizes him because it's a corpse in a wheelchair, bones. I'm like, how do you recognize that's... Because he says Franklin. So yeah, I get, like, somehow Dennis Hopper recognizes. It could be another guy in a wheelchair. Like, I don't know. I don't remember how Dennis Hopper recognized him as Franklin. But, I mean, that's obviously just a nod to the first film. There's supposed to be a sequel to this. And then the third film is like, no, this is the sequel. And then Chainsaw 3D is like, no, this is the sequel. Just like they all don't like each other, and it's like, no, we're going to ignore you. We're the ones that exist. And they keep doing that. They keep saying, well, this is the sequel to the original. No, this is the sequel. How about you just stop and don't make the fucking film at all? I'd rather go watch, you know, the original Wrong Turn. I'd rather go watch any number of fucking movies that, you know, didn't have to rely on being a remake or a sequel. It's not that I'm against them. It's just, how many times are you going to do the same fucking thing? I'm sorry, there's not a lot of avenue you could tell in a tale of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a guy with a chainsaw. We saw all the gory stuff and, you know, Chainsaw 2. We saw the scary stuff in this movie. Is Leatherface chasing someone with a chainsaw again? Okay, we've seen that. That's not scary anymore because we have seen it. It's nothing new. It's just repetitive. Here, though, this was the new... And again, it's done well. It's with natural lighting. The way the set is. The way they put, like, bones and... Here, like, this... Also, this dead person in the fucking chair. The way it's edited sort of encapsulates the frenzy. Hey, it's the mom from Psycho. Again, references to Ed Gein, who had his mom's corpse propped up. Because Ed Gein was a mama's boy. And you know, it's like, okay, what you don't do? You don't jump out the fucking window. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, if someone's coming at me with a chainsaw with human skin on his face, on top of his actual skin, you don't jump out the fucking window. And she's hurt. She's not Superman. What is it? Well, she jumped out of a fucking window. Sorry, she's not Catwoman and will land on, you know, perfectly. And the movie's not that long either. Like, the movie is an hour and 23 minutes. And we're at like 56 minutes, so... Yeah, about like 27 minutes left of the film. So there you go. Just want to get to the finale where she gets caught, taken back by the cook, and then the whole dinner scene. But yeah, Toby Hooper, may he rest in peace, same with Marilyn Burns, Gunnar Hansen, like, these two right here are no longer with us. Like, you're watching people that are no longer with us. And, kind of sad when you think about it that way. I mean, I guess that's natural when you, like, watch Dracula, you watch Frankenstein. Like, you watch Frankenstein, you realize every person involved with this film is dead. But this is what they leave on. You know, there's these movies that, like, they're dead, but their image is still there and alive right there on the screen. I'm seeing Marilyn Burns. You know, I'm seeing Gunnar Hansen. And, it is sad that there's Jim Sedow, who was in Chainsaw Massacre 2. And he had passed away by the time they did, like, the DVD of Chainsaw Massacre 2. The first, like, special edition DVD. Where they interviewed, like, Bill Moseley and Toby Hooper and Tom Savini. I think Marilyn Burns made a cameo in Chainsaw Massacre 4 at the end of the film, I believe. But yeah, I mean, you look at Toby Hooper's track record, it's not really the strongest track record, it really isn't. Actually, if I can... I'll look up his whole filmography and look through it, because I know I missed some. I mean, I'm sure nowadays it probably seems obvious. Like, of course this cook is with the bad guys, but I'm sure back then it's like, you know, he seemed like a nice guy at the gas station, and yeah, that humidity is no joke. Which is why we get a lot of fucking rain here in Texas. I guess that's funny, I'm watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Texas. And this is really the one inclination you kind of get that perhaps this is about cannibalism. Because they don't hone on that too much specifically if you think about it. But you do get the idea. That's probably him, like, giving a call to his family. God, Tobe Hooper passed away 2017. That's crazy. It's been 4 years since then. That is crazy. So I looked at his filmography. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a classic. Eaten Alive is there. That was 1976. Then in the 80s, he made 5 films in the 80s. The Funhouse, decent film. Poltergeist, great movie. But who really directed it? Life Force, again, decent. Good special effects. I like the concept of the film. It's definitely a big, like, Tobe Hooper having a big budget to do what he wanted. Invaders from Mars, not a fan. Chainsaw Massacre 2, fun sequel. Spontaneous Combustion, yeah, again, I think it fell apart in the third act. I'm Dangerous Tonight, kind of a lame. I think that was a made-for-TV film. Anthony Perkins was in it. I thought it was kind of boring. Something about a cloak or something that's possessed, and anyone who wears it get possessed, whatever. It was like, Night Terrors is horrible. Night Terrors is one of his worst films. He did work on Body Bags. That's an alright anthology film. The Mangler, again, is considered one of the worst films ever. I did kick out The Mangler. The Apartment Complex, I remember that being kind of lame. Crocodile, and I much prefer Alligator from 1980. Toolbox Murders was alright. 2004. I remember not minding the Toolbox Murders. Like the way... I didn't mind the story behind it. I do think it's better than the original Toolbox Murders. Because the Toolbox Murders is pretty much half the film he's going off killing people. The other half, he has one girl sort of trapped on a bed, and I think it's like Tamara Mitchell. Is it Tamara Mitchell? Yeah, just giving like almost lots of speeches. Mortuary, like, from 2000 to his death, he did 4 movies. Crocodile, which wasn't all that. Toolbox Murders, I didn't mind. I liked. Mortuary, one of his worst films. And Gin, again, I think that's one of his worst films. Like, that's too bad. Salem, I didn't even mention Salem's Lot. I don't know, I couldn't get into, but I think because I saw the miniseries and not the... I think there is like a 2-hour version. Maybe I should have seen that first and worked myself up to the miniseries, but I don't know. It didn't seem like a story that needed that long of a running time to tell it. That's just me, though. Yeah, I would say my favorite films of Tobe Hooper would be The Mangler, this film, Poltergeist. I'll just say it's his film for now. And Chainsaw Massacre 2. Since I got this up... Tobe Hooper was working as an assistant film director at the University of Texas at Austin and as a documentary cameraman. He co-wrote the screenplay with Tim Henkel. Yeah, this is the fucked up thing. I always thought this was a cool shot, sort of this going up to the house, or the impending doom of it all. They formed Vortex, a corporation. Tim Hinkle was president, Toby Hooper is vice president. They asked Bill Parsley, a friend of Hooper, to provide funding. Bill Parsley formed a company named MAB, which invested $60,000 into production. In return, MAB owned 50% of the film and its profits. Production manager told most of the cast and crew that he would have to defer part of their salaries until after it was sold to a distributor. They made the idea more attractive by awarding them a share of its potential profits. The cast and crew were not informed that Vortex owned 50%, which meant their points were worth half of the assumed value. So let's put it this way. Let's say you get $100. I'm going to give you half. Cool, I did $50. Well, no. See, someone else owns that other 50. So I only get 25? Yeah. And I mean, and that's if you just worked with one person. So this is like, they got fucked over, honestly. Farmhouse located on Quick Hill Road near Round Rock, Texas. 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, humid, temperatures peaking at 110 degrees Fahrenheit in July 26. They would not wash Gunnar Hansen's costume because they were worried that the laundry might lose it or it would change color. They didn't have money for a second costume. So I wore that mask 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for a month. So you can imagine just how much that smelled. 16mm camera filmed. Art director Robert A. Burns, he collected the remains of cattle and other animals, which he littered the floors of the house. That was the guy, obviously, Robert A. Burns, the art director. The budget, some say it was $93,000, some say it was $300,000. Louis Pirano of Bryanston agreed to distribute the film worldwide. We made a deal with the devil, and I guess that, in a way, we got what we deserved. They signed the contract with Bryanston after the investors recouped their money. The lawyers, the accountants, all the people were paid. Only $8,100 was left to be divided among the 20 cast and crew members. A court judgment instructed Bryanston to pay the filmmakers $500,000, but by then the company was declared bankrupt. In 1983, New Line Cinema acquired the distribution rights and gave the producers a larger share of the profits. And that's how... that kind of led to New Line Cinema, not exactly that, but New Line Cinema got it back with, Chainsaw Massacre 3. And then I think they produced the remake, I believe. That was New Line Cinema. Yeah, and even the critics gave it praise. I just looked at all these accolades that he got. I mean, look at all these accolades throughout the years. The Times listed as one of the 50 most controversial films of all time. Paved the way for horror to be used as a vehicle for social commentary. Go down for the 1975 Cannes Film Festival, Directors Fortnight, and London Film Festival. It won the special jury prize at the Fantastic Film Festival in France. Entertainment Weekly named it 6th on the 2003 list of the top 50 cult films. Total Film had a poll. It was selected as the greatest horror film of all time. Time magazine named it the top 25 horror films when they did their list in 2007. It was part of the 500 greatest movies of all time for Empire magazine, listed at 199. In 2010 Total Film poll, it was again selected as the greatest horror film. The judging panel included veteran directors John Carpenter, Wes Craven, and George Romero. In 2010, The Guardian ranked it at number 14 on the list of top 25 horror films. Horror Hall of Fame in 1990. Part of the permanent collection of New York City's Museum of Modern Art. The Academy of Film Archive houses the Texas Chainsaw Massacre collection, which contains over 50 items, including many original elements for the film. The Academy Film Archive. So I'm just like nosing all this other... Again, just crazy, all this stuff. Like all these releases. And, you know, this cast and, you know, crew got nothing from it. Just sad when you think about it. Of course, I mean, this whole dinner scene, one more time I said that from apparently when they were making this was insanity. Total fucking insanity. And the actors make it work and make it believable. And like I said, Robert Burns set the way he made it all up, the way the chairs look, how, you know, stuff on the walls. It's like you just feel really sorry for this character of Sally. You feel really bad for her. And I think it's also just the whole frenzy of what's going on here, of everything and up, down, and center. And that whole line she says, "They're crazy, you're crazy, you gotta make them stop." That line was used in some trailers, just under the radar. Like there's a double feature trailer of The Hex and something else. Like The Hex Massacre or something, and something. Kathy's I can't remember. But it's like it's a double feature trailer. And that line was used. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not from those movies, that's from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's just that this girl does signify being scared and out of it, because she was. I mean, I think that's why it feels real, because they were really crazy at this point, shooting in this heat, with this many hours, over and over again. Low production values, so it's not like you got all your fans and your AC and be pampered, quite the opposite. And then like, you buy her fear and her anxiety, and then you have these people mocking it. And also some nice direction, like the up close shots of the eyes. Again, wasn't the typical type of shots that you would see in much of any films back then. It's one of those things where it's like, well, what more can they do? What more are they able to... How much can one person handle with all this craziness going on? Sorry this isn't the best commentary, but I'm like, again, what more can you say about this film that has been said by the plentiful amount of dissertations, discussions, panel discussions, documentaries, not just on the film, but on just horror films in general. You know, it's considered by so many to be one of the best horror films ever. And, you know, for good reason. Now, I tend to go more towards fun horror films, like, well, I would even say John Carpenter's The Thing is more fun than this, but, with the special effects, but, like Tremors, the Blob remake, things of that nature, Leviathan, but, this is very effective. I don't really have much issues with the film. I mean, the dinner scene does go on quite long, but that's kind of the point of it. And most of them get away. Like, you know, Leatherface is still alive. The cook is still alive. Till part 2. Again, it's just sad that, you know, all these actors are working their asses off. They're pretty much being mentally tortured by this point. And this hot, crazy, humid, 100-degree weather. And if it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to be even hotter in the room. And... I keep forgetting that Grandpa's supposed to be alive. I keep thinking he's a dead guy, but he's supposed to be alive. Barely. I think it's just one of those scenes that you just never seen anything like this before. And it's just so new to an audience that it just... I think a lot of them just didn't know how to handle it. How the hell do you handle this? And even for a title that's been... People think it's such a bloody movie. It's not. And they're jumping out the window again. But that's understandable. Like, you would jump out the window. And then you just feel bad for her just being so crazed and so... out of it. But I'm sure nowadays she'd have to know like kung fu and do kung fu kicks on Leatherface and the hitchhiker. Would that be sexist? No, it'd be realistic, but... just saying. And yeah, this guy just back more and more. Again, you're like, what the fuck? Where is this going? And this truck driver to me is the hero of the movie. Like this might be my favorite character in the film. This truck driver, and I don't even know the guy's name. I mean, he's the hero of the movie. He runs over this motherfucker. He's going to help out. Does anyone know this truck driver's name? Because I think he's the hero of the movie. Look at this. I mean, he runs over the hitchhiker. That's one thing I did not like in Texas Chainsaw 3D. They make it seem as if Leatherface got this guy. I'm like, no. Let this guy live. He deserves to live. And it's like, fuck you, and then just throws it, bam. I mean, again, this like this guy out of the blue, he runs over the hitchhiker, knocks this guy down that made Leatherface cut his own leg. It's pretty fucking badass. And Leatherface is limping, he can't fucking catch up. I just imagine like this guy in the pickup truck, like what the hell he's thinking, like all this stuff that he's seen. I wonder who this guy in the pickup truck is as well. And then this girl's like going crazy with all the stuff. I mean, it's like you can't blame her for it. And this sort of death dance, whatever you want to call. Then it ends, and it is one of those that it kind of ends on this high of, and the audience is sitting there going, what the fuck did we just watch? Maybe I'll say the truck driver here. Window washer, beater man, storyteller, cowboy. Cow truck driver? Ed Gwynn? And Perry Lorenz pickup driver. Yeah, John Larriquette narration. I remember hearing the story, I don't know if it's true, that apparently John Larriquette got paid to do the narration with a joint. Like, here's a joint, go read, which I mean, I'm like, well, how did he even get in touch with John Larriquette in the first place? And he did do the narration in the remake, which I thought was cool that he would actually go back to do the narration for the remake. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I would say this is the best, and Texas Chainsaw 3D is the fucking worst. It is the fucking worst. But yeah, this is a classic, so it speaks for itself. And that's the thing, this is a movie that just speaks for itself. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.